Hey, how's it going? Scott Smith here. Hope you're doing well. Wanted to take a couple of minutes or maybe an hour and talk about a topic that has recently come up um, a couple of times in my sphere, and that is transitioning from residential real estate into commercial real estate. So I actually started off in residential real estate and realized quickly that dealing with people wasn't really my forte, and I was more of a numbers guy. And so I got into commercial real estate. And so I made the transition many years ago, and so look forward to helping you do so as well. Just quick note: if you haven't already, click subscribe down there, wherever it may be, and hit that little bell so that you can get notified when we have new videos come up. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today that I think are important are comparing residential and commercial real estate, so you know exactly what you're looking at some areas of focus, looking at education, looking at targeting your clients, looking at how to bring value for your clients, looking at the deal process, and then handling follow through and follow up, and then branding. So those are about the 8 different areas that I think I'd like to focus on. So I'm going to take a couple minutes and talk about each one of those to get you a better understanding of how to transition your business currently from residential into commercial. So, all right. So first thing I want you to do is do the whole, pros and cons, right? So these are some things from my list. Some of the pros of getting into commercial real estate are larger commissions. So you make more money per deal. And it's business hours. So I don't really work nights and weekends per se. And then my clients are generally more professional. So I'm not dealing with emotional decisions as much as business and financial decisions. And then deal flow is usually year round. And so we don't have that seasonal peak and valley that the residential practitioners do. So those are some of my pros, and some of my cons are longer start time. So you have a much longer time to get up and running, to get deals and build your pipeline. You'll hear that a lot in commercial real estate. How's your pipeline look, right? And then once you get the deals in the pipeline, those deals take a lot longer to close. So it's not uncommon, 10, 12, 18 months to get a deal from start to finish. And so just make sure that you're aware of that going in, that commercial real estate is a long game and it's not for the short term, short haul. Let me see what else. Focus and specialization is an issue. You can't be all things to everyone. We're going to talk a bit about that in a minute. And the cost of commercial and the cost of data. Those are some of the cons, whereas I know you all pay a small fee per quarter. On the residential side, we pay a lot of money on a monthly side on commercial. So let's start with making the commitment. It is a full-time gig. So you're going to be working at least 40 hours a week strictly in commercial. And it's difficult to be successful in commercial if you're going to be a resi-mercial, which is our slang term in the industry for a residential agent that practices commercial. I don't practice commercial, I do commercial, right? That's the difference. And your first commission, like we said, is going to take a lot longer to procure. So as you're building that pipeline, you're spending the money still, even while you're building your pipeline, not to mention just getting that transaction going. So you may spend $800 a month for 10 months. So you can't take a deal that's going to generate you $5,000 in commission, right? Bad business sense. And we're in this business to make money, not to give it away. So all the data sources are expensive. We have multiple data sources. It's not like one data source like the residential agents typically have. Now talk a little bit about the area of focus and how you can't be all things to all people. Residential, generally you have what? You're representing the seller of a property or the buyer of a property. That's basically what you have in the residential world. Maybe you represent some developers, maybe you represent some tenants, but typically speaking, the majority of transactions are going to be either side of that. In commercial, though, you're going to have buyers, sellers, landlords, tenants, developers, and all of that is going to be inside of the multiple industry segments and asset types like multifamily, retail, office, special use, industrial. And so you can be representing, let's take industrial. You may be industrial sales rep, where you're only going to deal with industrial sellers. And then there may be a different company that specializes in industrial landlord rep, where they're not going to deal with selling the building, they're going to deal with representing the owners of the building in the leasing negotiations. And there's industries built around each one of those for each asset. Okay, so be aware of that. And each one obviously has trade associations and expenses that come along with that. So if you're going to be a retail person and you're only going to rep retail tenants, then you should probably be in ICSC, which stands for, International Council of Shopping Centers. So, or if you're going to do in management and development work. So there's IREM for that, and there's different trade associations and data sets that you can purchase and ongoing expenses for each asset type. So know that going in. So you really kind of want to focus in on what is your area that you're going to be hyper focused on, so that you are known as the expert in your market. So whenever there's a commercial question about that asset type, or maybe just in general, if you're in a smaller market, the people are going to reach out to you and say, hey, I got a commercial question. Can you help me? Right? Be top of mind, but always want to laser focus in on a industry specific or asset specific type. Okay. And then education. Education is really important in commercial real estate because it is very specific. So I'm a CCIM, which stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member. You can find out more information. Just go to CCIM.com. There's a couple other resources available in educational platforms. Some are broker specific, and then some are generalist. I do have my own that I've taught many different brokers over the years. If you go to patreon.com /CRE education, that's my Patreon site. Feel free to become a member of that site as well. We'll have 3 tiers, $3 tier, which basically just gives you all the freebie stuff. And then the $20 tier, which is classes like this one. And then the $60 tier, which is ongoing how to become a broker, as well as mentorship available as well. And each one comes with like swag too. So know that going in. Education is very important. You can get an MBA. You can get degrees in, microeconomics. All that will help your commercial real estate education. But you need to have an advanced study in the industry. Okay. Let me see what else. Mentorship. Can't express this enough. You got to get a mentor if you're getting into this industry. There's so many pitfalls and legal obstacles that you have to jump through that it's crazy to think that you would go into this industry without getting a mentor. Somebody that said and be prepared to pay them, whether through a monthly retainership or through a deal specific, right? So advice is free, but involvement is not. So know that going in. Advice is free, involvement is not. I'll give you my advice, but if you want me to help you work on it or help you work a deal, that takes a different scenario. So get educated, get a mentor. That's going to take you the furthest. Also, don't be afraid to volunteer in your trade associations. They're starving for leadership. They're starving for assistance. Go help them. That's going to be the easiest barrier to entry. Okay. Now let's talk about targeting decision makers. How do you go about getting the information of property owners and of data sets? This is going to depend on the area of focus. So this isn't the easiest thing to teach, but so there are tenants databases that you can subscribe to. You pay a monthly fee and you get access to all the tenants' information and their real estate contact personnel. And it breaks down by who is growing in those areas and what is their basic footprint. So if you had a 6,000 square foot location and you knew Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs was growing in the area and they needed a 3,000 square foot space, you could contact them and say, I have a 3,000 square foot space. Will you be able to, or are you interested in looking at that site? So in that regard, they have teams of their internal real estate people that you would be dealing with, okay? Research, there are, Google is your friend, right? CoStar, very expensive, but it has a tenant database as well. And then your local county records, that's a way to do that. Look and see who is buying, who is the most active buyers in the area, and then target that way. A new player is Reonomy, and Reonomy lists all the contact information of each asset. You have to pay for that, but I think their fee is like $200 a month. CoStar does the same thing. It's just their interaction and databases are slightly different. Let me see. So once you make contact with those owners, personal visits, follow-ups, mails, that kind of stuff, you're really not going to go door knocking per se, but you may make a warm introduction through a phone call or send an email before dropping by, right? But I would always recommend dropping by your client's office so that you can generally see what their makeup and what their floor plan looks like, so that you'll know, would this asset work for them if you had an asset specifically in mind, okay? And then networking groups, meeting property owners out that way. Let me see. And then you could also just develop your own database, just, word of mouth, who owns what, who the tenants are, and just still work that angle, if you will, with Excel spreadsheets and the like. That is still very commonplace in commercial real estate. Let's talk a bit about bringing value to your clients. You have to bring value to your clients. If you think that just putting your commercial asset in the multiple listing service, which commercial practitioners and buyers and tenants don't even utilize, then it's probably not going to be the best value for your clients. And it probably is teetering on an ethics violation as well. You need to be able to save your clients time. You need to be able to save them money. You need to show them that there is a reason for working with you. And then you need to provide your expertise. If you don't have expertise, that's where you bring in your expertise. Your clients, when you're targeting clients, you need to determine what you can provide for them, what service will save them time and money and create wealth. What tools do you have that your client can benefit from? What experiences do you have that your client can benefit from? These are all questions that you need to be able to internally ask yourself so that you can portray that value proposition to your clients, okay? Marketing. So we talked a little about that. Let's say Facebook ads, probably not going to be the best way to sell commercial real estate. You may put LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn is a bigger social platform than Facebook currently. So know where you're going to put your ads. Make sure that they're in the commercial sections of areas and that you're not trying to market a commercial property through the same channels that you would a residential property, because it's not the same. Okay. Let's talk about the transaction process and timeline. So every transaction are going to have a couple of the basic elements, and this is really where mentorship comes into play. But you have the needs analysis, a market study and a survey where you determine what's out available on the market, pre-offer analysis, how do you put your best foot forward. Then you create an offer or a letter of intent, where this is for a lease or a sale. Probably not verbal. There are structures that you want to have in the letter of intent, as well as some details that you're going to want to have in that letter of intent. So you negotiate the letter of intent. Once that's agreed upon, then you go into the response analysis, where you're analyzing what the seller's or buyer's response is. So you can kind of look at that and make a redetermination if it's still a go or no go. If it is a go, then you would move into the contract phase, and that's usually where the attorneys get involved in writing the leases or the purchase and sale agreements. Okay. Then through that, then you would go into your due diligence process, and that's where you rake the entire property to determine any issues that may come up, any title issues, any physical issues, etc. And then after the due diligence period, then you have what is known as the contract to the lease going hard. And that's where you actually have a solid contract, and then with a close date and that. And then, yeah, then hopefully through all that, you either close the lease or the sale. Now, when do you get paid? Well, the answer that you can never be wrong in commercial is it depends. So you could have it so you get paid, half up front upon signing the lease, and then half once they occupy. Or if it's in a sale and a disposition, and you work the agreement out with the seller, where you would get paid a retainer over multiple years, because sales commissions are generally a lot higher. Again, the answer is always it depends. It's how you structure the deal with the client. Okay. Follow up and follow through. Successful transactions can be leveraged for multiple deals in the future, working, multiple assets if you're dealing with investors, or if you're dealing with tenants, maybe they want to expand. And one way to do that is every year when it comes time to doing their taxes, do a lease audit for them, make sure they're not paying for expenses that they didn't agree to pay in the letter of intent or the lease. Staying in touch on a regular basis, quarterly, semi-annually, annually. Very similar to residential in that regard, but we're not sending them Christmas cookies and all that kind of crap. We don't do that. Let's talk about branding here. This is the big one. This is where you're probably going to get called on the carpet, mostly for transitioning from residential to commercial, is your clients are going to look you up. Just like you're looking up your clients going to look you up. And if they see that you are predominantly a residential agent, why are they going to pick a residential agent to represent them in a $100 million transaction? Why are they going to pick a residential agent to help them spend, $50 million in a lease? They're not. There's ulterior motives there, and I don't know what those are, but you wouldn't go to a butcher to perform surgery, right? That's about as clear as we can make it. So make sure when you're branding yourself that you are accurately promoting your brand and yourself. Also make sure that you are clearly identifying your value proposition in your marketing pieces and your sales pitches and your videos, etc., so that your clients will know what you stand for and who you are, right? So here's one example I would use is that I wrote down is our goal is to maximize wealth for our clients through the prudent acquisition, operation, and disposition of commercial real estate. That's a quick tagline. We'll utilize our expertise, market knowledge, and hard work to reduce our clients' cost of occupancy by 10 to 15%. That's very specific. It attaches a number so they know, or they have a perception that you know what you're talking about. Okay. We are the premier commercial real estate provider in X location. So yeah, that's it. Just some things that you should consider and think about if you're transitioning from residential to commercial real estate. There are many pros and cons to each of these aspects. And I could probably talk for hours on each step of the way, but just know CRE involves a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, a lot of focus. It's not something that you can just randomly do and take on and be successful. You may close a transaction, but it doesn't mean that you have escaped liability, right? Successful transactions lead to more business, and your brand will set you apart. So make sure you are branding yourself appropriately. So that's all I want to talk to you about today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the comments or shoot me an email, expertcre@gmail.com, or send me a text, 443-691-8153. Look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully this was helpful, and watch some of my other videos here or there, wherever they're around. Maybe they can help you out as well. Subscribe to my YouTube. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, hope you're well. Talk to you soon.